In a land of myth and a time of magic, the destiny of a great kingdom rests on the shoulders of a young boy. His name, Merlin.
Hello everyone, welcome. I hope you guys are doing well. And as you're noticing, there is music in the background unlike before, which means that this episode is a lot more different than what you guys will be getting later on. You see, for you guys, this is already coming out after the Gates of Avalon episode, while for me, this is before. So, allow me to elaborate on why this one episode is different from the others. See, this episode that we're going to be talking about today of the beginning of the end, it's not like any other episode I can just review and analyze like that. It is instead something that we have to put into a giant retrospective that cannot be reviewed. It is simply something that we have to just talk about because of how relevant it will be as a plot point. But first, let us go over the regular thing of the synopsis, the tale, and what is all entailing for a giant story. The first part of it is that it's focused on the druid aspect that is somewhat hidden within the realms of the show Merlin, being a secretive and peaceful lot of magical users that try to keep to themselves, especially since Uther has this whole banned on magic thing going on that leads them to near extinction as a people. However, the main focus of it is on a simple druid boy by the name of Mordred. And all the episodes focusing on this is the hunt for Mordred because he was with someone that was a druid person that was put on execution merely like 8 to 9 minutes into the episode at best, if not shorter. However, the thing about it is, Mordred's story within this continuity is a lot like a darker version for Merlin's. Unlike a very secretive child that can sneak into Camelot and be grown into one of the greatest sorcerers within the Arthurian lore, Mordred's story is always painted in a darker light and sense. And I mean this because this is what's going to portray itself as throughout the series. You see, the episode itself kind of paints into a giant foreshadowing wall for a lot of different premature actions that will happen throughout the show. For starters, when it comes to Arthur's own involvement in the series, we do have small hints and foreshadowing notes towards his own destiny of him having an Alabian countryside that has magic being free for all usage as he becomes one of the greatest kings within Arthurian lore, surpassing his father far beyond anyone's imagination could in their own rights. It also foreshadows Morgana's whole rebellion sort of saga that will come out later on in the show, but to an extent that we'll go on to when it all finally arises. I'm just going to say there's going to be a rebellion on her side, but I'm not saying if it's for the good or the bad of Camelot. And last but not least, it also focuses on the foreshadowing notes of Merlin's destiny. For, you see, Mordred himself kind of reveals to Merlin that he has one of many names of Emrys. Emrys being one of the savior names Merlin has been given for his future of being one of the greatest magic users of all time, even more so than anyone in all of fictional history as a magic user. And this whole series itself kind of paints itself that destiny and fate often overlap itself into what will happen no matter what choices we do. And the big choice of this episode is the life and death of Mordred throughout the entire series. Why is that? It's because everyone has always known the regular myth that if Mordred were to live beyond his days and see Arthur in battle, Mordred would be the one to kill Arthur. And so far throughout this whole episode, that's the fate that's being painted out for if Merlin, Morgana, and other people associated with trying to save Mordred were to actually have it happen. That sooner or later, Mordred will kill Arthur if he's allowed to live. Now, for a lot of people, the stakes of having someone live or die within a series can be a little bit jarring because that's sort of against the mortal code of what a hero should do. However, this is the argument I place with you guys. In a show like this where fate and destiny are so intertwined, no matter what you do, no matter how much you want the story to paint differently, it will always end in tragedy if the wrong thing is done. Do you even have a choice in the matter in how you do destiny and fate? Do you want to see someone being saved now so that they'll tear your heart out later? Or do you want to sacrifice your inner nature to bring sadness upon others to make your own future feel happy? No matter what you do in this situation, you are trapped. You are exiled into the small little space where you cannot have a semblance of any sort of honor and valiancy for your own actions. No matter how you want to paint yourself, no matter how you want to make things happen, you just end up lost in the middle ground. And I believe this show kind of paints it in a very beautiful moment in this show, in just this one episode alone, for how it tries to do things for all the characters involved. Even if they don't know the general plot in and of itself, they'll still feel like they're trapped in their goals of things. Arthur wants to make sure that everyone has a fair trial and have mercy as a thing rather than having his father's way of doing things, but he's trapped by his code of being a son to an insane sociopath that cannot see reason. Morgana wants to do the right thing and also try to save a young boy's life, but she's limited in her role of simply being the king's ward. Again, I wish the people would stop saying that because that's not what the word originally meant. And Merlin wants to do what's right for everyone involved, making sure that Mordred doesn't end up killed and to have him safeguarded. But he cannot do any more than what he is allowed to do in the show because of his biggest secret of everyone else that's watching the show, of him being a powerful magic user that has the fate of saving Arthur numerous times until he has become king, where he then has to save his life on an even grander scale because Arthur's a giant moron. I will admit, he gets likable later on, but Arthur's still pretty stupid and cocky and gets himself nearly killed a lot of times. So, aside from all of this though, I cannot review the beginning of the end because of how poignant it is for a point within the first season alone to paint the picture of the grander scale of the show. This whole episode itself cannot be rated, cannot be analyzed without having to go into several different branches of spoiler territory for the series. And there lies the problem about why this one episode of this retrospective is in and of itself a retrospective rather than a review. So if you guys want to watch the episode, that's fine. I recommend that you guys do if you want to see where the foreshadowing plot lines for what's to come will happen more so than any other episode, because this is one of the best episodes to do so. However, if you want me to do a full-on review of this, I cannot, because as someone that grew up a lot on the Arthurian mythology and watching the show a lot of times to the conclusion, I cannot, in my best judgment, give a full-on review to this without having to spoil a lot of things before we are finished with this giant weekly retrospective. With that being said, though, we'll get back to this in about 2 weeks, since I gave you guys 3 episodes, long in and long out throughout this entire couple of days span. But when we get back to this, we are going to look into the episode of Excalibur, where it's going to be a regular review for you guys, so do not worry. So to all my magic users out there, keep on with your finesse, and to all my nomads out there, stay stylish out there. I'll see you guys then.